Darren, welcome to the My Love of Golf podcast. How are you?
Ross, thank you very much. I'm great. It's just starting to hit autumn now in the UK, and I know you guys are now starting to head through spring. So you're getting the good stuff coming, and we are just about to turn into the cool stuff. But I am really good, thank you.
Well, for anyone watches the video that we put out on the My Love of Golf YouTube channel, it's still hoodie season where I am, but I did get out in the sun today. It's getting better. Yes, you're right, but I can see you in bathed in sunlight there with a beautiful backdrop. Now, you know, once again, it's a video thing. It's not an audio thing, but comparing backdrops, your backdrop there, you are a company man, as I introduced you as the commercial manager for EMEA. You are swathed in a plethora of Bushnell products around you. And I'm pretty sure you haven't just set it up for the podcast, but, we met in Scotland. We had a great time, and we're continuing that journey as now colleagues and friends. How have you been since our catch up in St Andrews? It was a pretty significant event that we attended. I had a good time. I don't know about you.
Do you know what? St Andrews was unbelievable. It was one of those summers, I think, that, you know, the event, the Open at St Andrews, you know, obviously Cam Smith, Aussie winning it, right? Fantastic. And for us, it's an opportunity, you know, to meet up. We had, you know, a gang that came over as well that were on something of an epic adventure themselves in various countries and ticking off bucket list golf courses. For you, it was amazing. I think you came in, we saw you, I think 24 hours after you landed, and then you went on your own little month-long kind of, you know, journey through Scotland, if you like, and following the golf courses you were playing, the pictures and your posts. Was very jealous, I have to say, but our few days in St Andrews was brilliant. I think anyone who loves golf would have loved that week, and we were very fortunate to be there, and it was great to meet you in person, and obviously pick up where we are now and look forward to some golf we're going to have in the future.
You know, we had some experiences there from, you know, hanging out at sunset at Russack's up there in the bar, and that very heavily photographed little putting green that's on that balcony that overlooks the 18th, you know, sharing some sunset photos up there, you know, meeting your colleagues from the Scandinavian countries who are in charge of distribution for Bushnell products over there. That was great. Always great to meet people from other parts of the world and pick their brains about the golf business and the golf industry. But yeah, you're right. For me, it was pretty special, you know, getting to hang out with yourselves, but also some of the players and get inside the ropes and do that, which, you know, the guests on the My Love of Golf podcast already know. One of the things that I was interested to see, and you might explain that a little bit more to me. Obviously, we're on the range, and, you know, we were checking out all the players, and we were checking out who had the Bushnell rangefinders hanging off their bags, and you will hopefully know about this, the count, you know, the product count. There was a lot of people running around and going up to all the players and going through their bags. And I think as consumers, you know, on the outside, we hear about that, but, you know, we're always intrigued to see the validity of it. Or what's the report called? Is it the Dale report, or there's a name for it?
So in the US, the service called the Darrell Survey.
Darrell Survey, sorry, yeah.
In the UK, we have a company called SMS that manage that for us, the sports marketing surveys.
So
they take that.
It is a thing. Explain to us what happens in that environment, you know, because they were obviously counting rangefinders as well.
Absolutely. And the companies that facilitate those surveys are, you know, they are on tour week in, week out. Now, we will work with them at certain times of the year or on certain events because we want to know, you know, we want to get that benchmark to see how many of the elite golfers on various tours are using our products. We know for, you know, 25 plus years now that we've been the market leader, and particularly in the laser category, and having that sort of validified, if you like, by the tour players is great to know, and it's great to understand. Equally, part of what we do alongside that is working with the players, the caddies, the associations and the tours and everything else to understand what are the future needs, what are the developments in that product space, you know, what could we do better, what could we do to help the elite golfer to start with, and obviously all the way through the run of golfers going down to your beginners. How can we make products that will help everyone with their golf and hopefully, I think importantly, enjoy their golf? But from a tour level, what you saw was the guys that week at the Open were going around. They had to speak to every player and every caddy that played in the Open. And then we get those results back within 48 hours. And for us, we 95.6% of the players and caddies combined were using Bushnell lasers, which is significant, and it's a wonderful, achievement for us, that the very best of the game, at the very peak of their events scheduled in the year at the Open, are trusting Bushnell products to aid them with their event preparation and delivery.
It was interesting to see, in particular, the event preparation part, how many of them, and I guess that they're not paid, or maybe some are. I don't know the commercial arrangements with sponsors, probably not. But how many of them, just proudly hang that Bushnell rangefinder out there on the side of the bag. The big one that we all saw. Rory just, there it is on his his brown event staff bag there, and Hao Tong Lee, and there's dozens of them that all had it out there. So in terms of the tour representation, you had your tour rep there. What is the role of the tour rep, on tour with Bushnell in that event? But I'm assuming that that's not the only tour event that Bushnell have representatives at.
Absolutely. If I take Europe as an example, we have Peter Newby, who is our tour agent. Now, Peter was a caddy for a number of years, 20 years. He was head of the Caddies Association, was chairman. So a very well-established, well-known character within the golf world, and particularly the tour world. And Pete now looks after our tour arrangements for the players. So if you were to go to Paris this week, so you've got the Golf National for the Kazoo Open, Pete's there on the range Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And he's there making sure that any of the players, the caddies, the managers, the coaches, if they need any equipment or any products, and they will come. And it's a commercial transaction. So, what's really important there is it's not product that we are readily handing out to the players. They are physically coming and purchasing that product from us. And I think that strengthens the validity of why our products are so good, because the guys are literally paying to use them, which is wonderful. And it's it's something we're very proud of, and we want to continue making sure that the products that those guys are going to use, and products for everybody, are the top of the game. And I know we're going to talk about one of those at some point today, and excited to share some details on that with you as well.
Yeah, well, I guess it's validity on tour, and the way that this new product, we'll talk about it in a second, but it's the Pro X3, which is the update to the already gold standard Pro XE, really is got to be an absolute asset to those guys at the top of their game. Let's keep talking about the tour stuff for a second, because it leads in nicely. But I remember when we were driving up there, the phone's going, and there's a bit of buzz around, like, oh, XYZ player needs 2 over here. Can we get 2 over there? And ABC player needs another one over here. Like, it was full on.
and that is a little snapshot, Ross, of particularly, I take Europe, Peter Newby's existence on a day-to-day, week by week, and obviously we get involved in some of that as well. Forever people are reaching out. Are you going to be at this event? Will someone be there? I need a new rangefinder. I want the newest, the latest. When's the new one coming out? We need to update it. Or coaches, I need to get a couple more for my players. It literally is, it's 24/7 scenario. And again, it's a compliment, right?
Yeah.
We know that those guys are wanting to use our products, and both in the men and the ladies game, because I think it's important. It's a generic, universal space that we're seeing exactly the same. We're fortunate to have some brand ambassadors with us now on the Pro X3 device and with Bushnell Golf, and you'll see who they are when you start seeing some of the TV commercials and some of the marketing assets that will be going out over the coming weeks.
Oh, so we're not going to get any scoops here on the Mile of Golf podcast as to, okay, fair enough. Okay,
I think, Ross, we could give you a really good indication. If you looked at American athletes, sisters at the top of the female game, then we're very lucky to have those sisters working with us as brand ambassadors now for Bushnell Golf.
Okie dokie. Well, there you go. There's a scoop. Well, let's talk about, I can see the boxes beside you. Obviously, that's some product that's probably early release, or it's about to be released, the Pro X3. As I said, it's the update for what was the gold standard in laser measuring devices, the Pro XE. is an insane product with the things technically that it's capable of doing. Once again, still talking about our pro athletes, and then we'll talk about and translate that into the everyday golfer like me and you, and well, you're not an everyday golfer, you're a PGA professional, of course, but everyday golfer like me and all the other people that I talk to in my world. Let's talk about the pros. How much advantage or how much use are the pros going to get out of some of these features? And let's talk about what those features are that the new Pro X3 feature.
Okay, so I know that you have one as well. So the Pro X3, it's a beautiful new unit replacing the Pro XE. So if we take its core features, if we take the Bushnell kind of mantra that sits within there, premium accuracy, we have a massive amount of light that comes into the optics. So it's a little bit like looking into a HD display, very clear. Our pin seeker with visual jolt technology. So when you zap your laser onto your target, you get both a visual ring and the vibration to confirm that you're locked in. The speed and accuracy of getting those is supreme. We're the top of the field at that. I think where the Pro X3, for example, comes into its own is, not only using our painted slope technology, so the ability to provide compensated yardages with elevation changes. So if you were looking at an uphill or a downhill shot, we can provide you, based on the length and the percentage elevation change, a true accurate compensated yardage or playing distance, perhaps for that shot. So if we take the tour side first, those guys, when they're doing their practice rounds, or the caddies are out doing their walks early in the week and doing their prep, what's really important for them is understanding those subtle, sometimes elevation changes. So a par 3, for example, it may be playing 3 yards under the actual yardage because it's ever so slightly downhill. And these are all factors that they'll put into their tournament, their prep, and their strategy. Now, where we look at the Pro X3 and we look at the element side to this, I think this is where, we've definitely moved the dial a little bit. So not only does the Pro X3 have the ability to measure air temperature, it also has the ability to measure air pressure. Then we have the ability, using what we call home elevation, we've got the ability to personalize those units. So for example, if I played all of my golf or most of my golf at Sunningdale Heath Golf Club, which is a dear club in my heart, with some friends of mine who run it, the elevation there, or the altitude there, is around 230 feet above sea level. So what I can do natively on the device, or now we have Bluetooth connectivity also included in the Pro X3. I can use our mobile app. I can set the device that my home elevation is 230 feet above sea level. So wherever I then play and travel, not only have I got the ability to work out the current air temperature and the air pressure, but I can now see if there's an elevation change from where I play most of my golf. For example, if I went and played somewhere that was 1,000 feet above sea level, the device is going to provide me with a compensated yardage or a playing yardage, which is going to be increased because of the elevation. So if I'm 1,000 feet above, the ball is going to fly further. So a straight line yardage might be, for example, 150 yards, but the compensated number may be something as low as 140, because it's going to factor in air temperature, air pressure, any slope changes, but then also changes in elevation from where I play most of my golf. So I now have a personalized bespoke unit. So we take the tour guys, one week they're in one country, perhaps in Europe, the next week they're in another, or they're in different states in the US, and they're likely to be at places at different altitudes. So that means that week in, week out, the player and the caddy has an increased ability to get supreme accuracy. And with that, we know that they can trust a Bushnell device for it. And the Pro X3 is definitely going to be the gold standard in that space.
It's amazing to think that a caddy now has that ability to really even, they're clever guys. They're good at doing what they do, but just to be able to dial in those distances, because not everyone lives or plays at the same elevation. So I can see how that can be absolutely super valuable. I know a lot of the people that I've already spoken to, you can see when you explain the concept, their brain ticking over going, well, how does it do that? How does it work out altitude? How does it know what's what? and where's where?
And they are sensors and altimeters that sit within the unit. So they're natively in the device. It's not something that's being transferred from, perhaps a mobile phone or other data sources. It sits inside the unit, and we then set or calibrate the unit for you as the golfer. And then wherever you travel from there, it's got the ability to work out where your elevation is at that point, measure it against your home elevation, and therefore, using an airtight algorithm, we've got the ability to provide you with that compensated number. Now, of course, we also have the ability within that to have elements either turned on or turned off.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use the device just in a slope, and our patented slope technology providing you playing numbers for uphill and downhill shots. And equally, you've got the ability, with a new feature this year. So we have a locking slope switch on the Pro X3. If we take previous units, it used to be a slide on the Bushnell button on the side. This time, you guys can probably see that on the front, we've got slope on. Now this can't be moved, but what we have is a spring-loaded mechanism that then locks that in place, in and out of slope, which avoids someone, if they're playing a tournament, flicking that into slope on and then having the increased information, which obviously is then illegal in tournament play.
Yeah, it's like a safety switch, so to speak.
Absolutely.
And I can see how it can take any, not casting aspersion over anyone, amateur or professional, take any just element of any doubt that someone might be doing anything. So it's a great, and I know a young, one of the young Australian pros who accidentally left on slope in a qualifying for a tour card overseas, and called herself and DQ'd herself because it was just accidentally, whether it slipped on or whatever, and I don't know what unit it was, but anyway, like that she just accidentally did it. So that really is that fail-safe mechanism to, it's very visual. It's in your face and you have to switch it and lock it on. So then when you talk about the everyday golfer, how would they use that? Because we know that we can't use all of those features in tournament play. So how do we use it as an amateur golfer and get the benefit from it?
So I think the benefits from that technology, they're applicable from tour level down. I think we'll all have a different information requirement level. Some people like to play very much field-related golf. Others would like to know the information, want to have all of the stats, all of the calculations. And we'll sit somewhere on that spectrum. And I wouldn't dare to assume every golfer will sit in one particular point. But I think if we're looking at the Pro X3 as the reference, what you've got is everything available to that golfer that is possible technically at the moment. And they've got the ability to scale that down. So if you didn't want to utilize the temperature, the air pressure and elevation changes, and didn't want to understand its effect on what might happen to the golf ball and the trajectory of the flight, you can remove elements. You can turn it off simply with a single press. Equally, that leaves you with a slope algorithm. It's really useful. I mean, to give you an example, Ross, I think rather than me trying to dictate that information, I'll give you a real life example.
Mm-hmm.
I was at last week at a really nice golf club outside of London, and they were launching a pairs event. And I had the ability to do some work with the club from a Bushnell perspective to sit on one of their par threes, which is it's a 12 hole at Bearwood Lakes. Big elevation change from tee to green. So it was around 185, 186 yards from tee position to flag on the day, but it was a 6% elevation change. So a downhill shot. Now that equated to using the laser or using one of our elite slope compensated GPS watches. That related to sort of 12 or 13 yards of playing difference. Now, to most of us, that's probably a club.
Yeah.
So rather than hitting a 5-iron, you could hit a 6-iron because of the elevation change. The ball is going to stay in the air longer and therefore carry slightly further. So being able to sit on that tee and work with all of the players and give them the opportunity to see the technology that sits now in a watch from a GPS perspective, and importantly in our lasers as well, it was mind-blowing. You could literally see the guys that were understanding how much elevation can affect their shots. It was brilliant. And there's no better way to describe or explain it, and then have that golfer hit a good golf shot with a change club the way we're going to hit with success. Now, I'm equally not going to sit there and say everyone's going to hit the perfect shot in that scenario, but it was lovely to see golfers of varying ages, various handicaps, various experiences, understanding that slope can affect their game. And for us, I guess we should be a mechanism to provide information and a little bit of education to help golfers understand how the topography on a golf course can affect the shots that they're hitting, the trajectory of the ball flights. If that can help improve their game, and I think most importantly, enjoy golf more, then we're doing the right things. And I think we have a plethora of products now that can definitely achieve that for all golfers of all abilities.
I want to talk about one of the features in not just the Pro X3, but it's in all of your range. You mentioned another product that's coming out, the Iron Elite, with slope compensated adjustment there. That's another thing for us to get our heads around. We'll come back to that. But there's one feature there that I think stands out in your product, and that's the visual jolt and the pin seeker technology. Now, it's not just pin seeker technology that vibrates every time it zaps a target. It's actually pin seeking, and it seeks out the pin. Can you explain that? Because I think that separates all of the Bushnell products over some of the competitors.
Well, I think it's the speed and accuracy of which our laser, effectively, if you take the laser in the simplest form, it is projecting a laser and rebounding back to the device. And it's how long that takes, and that will be the measurement of how far things are from A to B. Mm-hmm. Our optics are so good and so strong with the history of, our other brands, that we've got the ability to get that pin seeking technology instantly. And you've used the Pro X3. For me, it's kind of moved the dial again. I've been super impressed with how quickly we've been able to pick up those objects, particularly the flags, because that is the object that we're looking for. I guess another way to describe it, Ross, would be if you had a scenario, we had a flag and behind it were some trees or something like that to give it, a depth perception, then our optics that sit with the lasers is looking to find the nearest object in that line, and particularly flags. It's then the reflection of that information back to the device super quick.
Yeah. And what I noticed with some of the caddies that were out there on the Wednesday on tour was, and just to put it in perspective, when the players play, the caddies are obviously with them, but then the caddies work through those preparation days and not done. They go back out there on the course and they're getting more measurements. One of the chaps, I don't know who he was a caddy of, but he was with Ernie's guys when we were walking around. He was putting alignment sticks, tees in the ground, measuring different reference points and using his laser. But using the laser not to measure the pin, because the pin was obviously a variable, it was going to change throughout the tournament, but he was measuring a lot of the hills, humps, and hollows. That's a legitimate use of using a laser distance measuring device.
Absolutely. We know that the technology is there to provide you the ability to measure a distance from point A to point B. Now, you've got the guys, as you've seen, you look at the undulations that sit within some of the greens, particularly St Andrews, and I love that you just threw in there very subtly that you walked around inside the ropes with Ernie Els, and we to be fair, we couldn't get you off the golf course for a long time because you were just having too much fun, and I totally understand and respect why, but it gave you a really good insight as to how some of the inner workings of that preparation was. It's not only about what club do I hit it on what tee and on what line, but those guys are trying to figure out what distance it is to the peak of some of those, some of those hills, some of those mounds, some of those sort of undulation changes that sit on those greens, particularly the size of the greens at St Andrews. So absolutely, why not use our products to provide you with that accurate information? Point A to point B, the top of that slope is 8 yards, the top of the one behind it is 14. Therefore, you've got a playing yards there of 6 yards to work with on that shelf. They'll use it in a number of different ways. Bunkers, carry distance over bunkers, working it how far certain bunkers are depending on the sight line that they're in. You can use it in a multitude of ways, but it's really interesting, and I think I was probably in the same boat as you, watching those guys prepare and the details that goes into it, and being able to see that firsthand. It's great because it helps us understand why they're using the products and how they're using it. So when they tee it up on Thursday morning, round one, they're good to go. They've got their, their legal yardage books with them. But inside of that, there's a whole lot of note taking and a whole lot of information that they've gathered over the previous days to give them the best chance to go and compete and perform that week.
Let's talk about some of the other features that are part of that Pro X3. So IPX7 waterproof. What does IPX mean, and why is it important to have? I think it's obvious why it's important to have it waterproof. But in relation to what IPX7 means, what does that mean for the golfer when they're in some inclement conditions?
So Pro X3 IPX7 is a extremely waterproof unit. So IPX7, basically there are levels of water resistant through waterproof. For us, Pro X3 is really important that it does meet that IPX7 standard, so that if you are playing on incremental weather, you're not going to have any internal damage to the device. There's no ability for water to get inside the inner workings. We've talked about some of the features that sit inside and the technology that's being used there. We don't need any of that compromise. So fundamentally, it provides an airtight, waterproof unit.
And we've talked about the optics, but give us some understanding of just how far that optical piece can shoot, and its level of accuracy between, the way I described it in the video that I've just finished for Drum and Golf was, you can stand on the furthest par 4 that you play on and shoot to the pin, and if you want to go for it, and if you can hit it that far, you'll have an accurate measurement from your tee to the pin on the longest par 4 that you'll find, and probably further.
Absolutely. I think, we would talk around 700 yards and accuracy to less than a yard from that distance. So that's a significant range from which we can get supremely accurate information coming back to you via the technology that sits in the laser. So, 700 yards, there probably are only a couple of holes on the planet that are 700 plus yards long, and they're probably par 6s or par 7s, I think, from memory. So absolutely, you could stand on a par 5. Most par 5s that you play, you could get an accurate reading from the flag on the green if you had that line of sight.
The other thing that I really enjoy playing around with, albeit briefly, and I've used it before, but it was a good reminder, that the Bushnell app. So when you have a Bushnell product, you then can get the Bushnell app, and you can use the Bushnell app, and the features on the Bushnell app are also very powerful.
Absolutely. I mean, the app for us, and it's free to all golfers, which I think is really important. As we evolve our products, we've talked a little bit about it in Scotland and sort of off air, if you like. And, the Pro X3 now has Bluetooth connectivity. So why would we use Bluetooth, or why would we need Bluetooth perhaps in a laser, is generally a question that we've come up with or come up against in the last sort of couple of months. But for us, it's really important because you've got the ability to connect and register via the mobile app. We then have the ability, if we wanted to, if there was an opportunity to do it, to transfer information from A to B. For example, if we take a laser, let's say in a year's time, we tweaked, updated, improved some of the algorithms that sit within some of the calculations. We could then update the firmware on that unit, so the software on that device, via Bluetooth, via the mobile app. So that becomes the first stage of maybe opening the door to be able to do different things with the data and the transference of that data from multiple points across our products in the range. Equally, you take the mobile app as a standalone, you can sit there with some of the best GPS mapping to work out your shot planning on the holes. You can do your scores, you can do your stats, you can update our various devices and various golf course mappings, all from that app with the ease of use. And that's both Android and iOS.
Yeah, it's really cool. You can move the flag. You can just move to any point on the hole and get those distances. Obviously, as you said, you can keep your stats on there, which was pretty cool. But also with that Bluetooth connectivity in the app relevant to the device, you can, if you don't want to use the mode buttons and toggle through the mode switches, you can turn on the screen display. So the black or the red bright display, you can do that via the app. You can change it yards to meters via the app. And there's a handful of other functions that you can change on the app rather than sitting there with the mode button, which is not hard. But if you've got the app there, you can do it on that as well. Pretty simple.
It's convenience, right?
Yeah.
You know, I think a great piece you've just mentioned there. We talked earlier around the Bushnell button that sits on the side of the Pro X3. Now, historically, this would have been the slide switch to move slope on and slope off. So what we've put back into the Pro X3 and giving you, the golfer, the opportunity to dictate and to personalize the unit by pressing the dual display button. Now you can choose between red or black displays within the reticle. So when you're playing golf, and it might change or vary depending on light conditions, you can choose between red, and there are 4 brightness settings with each, red or black displays. We think that's really important, that you as the golfer, as the user, can choose the optimum display settings for you and personalize them. And, you know, we're fortunate, right? We've probably played lots of golf around the world in lots of different conditions. I know if we put the kind of Scotland taint on some of the images and some of the courses you played late in the evening, there are times when either the red or the black isn't quite as sharp as you'd like it to be because of the external conditions. You've now got the ability to flip that between red and black, which I think is it's a really strong feature that will probably be undervalued, but will definitely be used.
Yeah, definitely. No, 100% correct. Have we touched on everything that we need to touch on the Pro X3? There's probably other things that we could talk about, but is there, I'm conscious of your time. Anything else that we've missed?
I think we've covered it. One thing we haven't talked about is our bite.
Yep.
Now, for those that know our range of products, historically, having the bike technology in there, the ability to use the magnetic bite, clamp it onto the side of your cart, buggy, your trolley, or your bag, or if you have, you know, we have now a bike clip accessory which you can fit onto the side of your golf bag, and you can just clip your device on. So having that ability is a cool feature, and again, most people use it without really thinking about it. So it's good that we have it in our flagship model as well.
For the benefit of the people watching the video, I have my bike clip just there, behind, just sitting beside my little unit there. And also my backdrop isn't as complemented with as many Bushnell products as yours. Not that I expect it to be either, but you've got some other ones there that we should talk about. There's some watches sitting over your right shoulder there. You want to grab those? Okay,
so the Ion Elite is our new GPS compensated distance color touch screen device. It comes in both white and black, so you can see either or. This is a really cool product for us. You know, I think if we move into the GPS side of the business, and particularly the wearable devices, we know the Wingman, we know that the Ion Edge, and we know that the Phantom 2 devices have been great sellers for us. But having a color touchscreen unit that has whole overview, shot planning capabilities, it's pretty cool. Dynamic mapping. So not only can we show you the overhead view of the green map, and you can move where the flag is, but it also shows you the direction from which you are coming at. So your front, center, back yardages are not generic, but they are, again, personalized to you and the angle to which you are approaching that green. And that will change on a 360 perspective. But for us, the compensated technology in here is incredible. So utilizing slope. The example I gave you earlier, being sat on a par 3, you know, I popped a couple of posts out on socials on that, where I had one of the units in a tournament mode, so with no slope turned on, and the adjacent unit having the slope adjusted distances on, and it was showing beautifully that 12-yard difference, the green that sat below, 6% elevation change. So having the ability to now progress what happens with GPS and the topography, and being able to display that in a slope capacity is a pretty exciting piece for us. And you know, the feedback that we've had with this watch has been exceptional in the last couple of weeks.
Now, just for the real technically oriented listeners, the concept, and they might already understand if they understand LiDAR data and how GPS works, but you know, how do we get slope compensation in a GPS watch? It was hard enough for us to understand how it was going to work in a distance measuring device, a laser distance measuring device. Now you're telling me you can do it in a GPS watch. How does it do that?
So if you take a standard map overview, if you put on Google Maps or whatever your choice of maps might be, and then you added terrain or you added topography, so the elevation changes that sit within that, So utilizing the GPS pinpoints, we now know that point A to point B, there might be a change in elevation. And all we're doing is we're adding into that technology, whether you're standing at par 3 as an example from the tee to the green, we know that the reference points on that green are higher, lower, or at the same level as the tee. And we can, using our patented technology, we can provide you with that slope compensated yardage. So we're using the information that's now there. The technology is improving so we can use more of it, and we can decipher that for you as a golfer, again, to give you that quick snapshot, real compensated playing yardage reference points.
I had a quick go of the watch, and for me, what I liked when I put my, how easy is this to use hat on, it ticked all the boxes. It's one touch, and then the user interface on the face there, it shows you very clearly what each of the functions do. Just on the outside of the surface of the watch, the face of the watch, sorry, you just press that, it takes you to that function, whether it's the map, whether it's the scorecard, or the other features, and you just use it. And then if you want to get back to another feature, you just press the button and then press the face. And it's so simple. It's not 2 presses and a swipe, or a swipe, and up, down, and another. It was just press, function, swipe around, use it, and then press it back. It was so simple to use.
And I think that's really important, because we've got to look at, and I think all of us that sit within technology particularly, it has to be feature packed, because there's an expectation that sits there from a golfer to be able to do a multitude of things with that device. But the usability, or the GUI, or the interface of that has to be as simple as possible, because we all, as we mentioned earlier, will have a different view and a different needs and requirements from technology, whether that's in its simplest form or all of the stats that we can pull from various features. And we need that to tick boxes for everybody. And I think, the guys have done an incredible job in pulling together the Ion Elite. And it's something, if I take my background, yes, from many years ago, we relied on the meter wheels, and then it was yardage books, and then it was lasers, and then it was, all of these other technologies that came in. But GPS was something that personally I used when I was in a buggy or in a cart, and it had the GPS sort of screens on, but I never really used enough on a day-to-day. And now, obviously, with my current role and the ability to, try new things, use different technologies, understand how it all works, I wouldn't be without GPS now. Whether that was the Phantom on my bag, or whether, particularly now with the Elite on my wrist, I never played golf with a watch on. I now wouldn't play golf without it. And that's probably the benchmark that I would use personally, is I'm really wanting to use that information that's there and various levels of that to assist me with my golf and my enjoyment of golf. And I think that's the key thing. Can we provide something that's feature packed, easy to use? I think we can. And I think we definitely have now in the Ion Elite watch.
Well, as I said, it was easy to use. If for me, that's a massive tick. And obviously it does all the features and functions with the backup of the Bushnell technology, but being easy to use, lightweight. I come across a lot of people that question wearing a watch. They've never played golf in a watch. They might be wearers of, traditional dress watches or so on and so forth. I think the evolution of sports watches and Fitbits have changed that. It also does a number of features, for personal health benefits, that watch. But I think it's very light. You put it on, you don't even know that you've got it on. It's so light. And once again, when it's not being used as a GPS, I think something that I always try and emphasize to customers, that the battery power is enough that you can use it as your personal watch. It's got a great face on it. You can set that to how you want it to look, and it lasts. Don't quote me on exactly. You can tell me how long it will last just on normal non-GPS mode, but it will last a long enough time for you not to be inconvenienced by the fact that it is a watch or your own personal watch. Is that correct?
Without a doubt. And I think, I guess we've got two views at products. One is a golf specific side, and the other is lifestyle. And I think it's that crossover piece that we're now seeing in wearable technology, particularly. And absolutely, I now use the Elite as my standard watch. I've got the ability to connect it to my phone. So if I wanted to have, call notifications, text message notifications, alarms, and all these other things, absolutely I can utilize it that way. But for me, it's lightweight. It does everything I need it to do plus more. And it's not been off my wrist for a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to continuing that into the future.
You talked about products crossing over. You've got one sitting up on the desk on the shelf there behind you in the box there. Yeah, that's it. So you know what I'm talking about. That's the wingman. I was your wingman in St Andrews, but the real wingman that's important for you is the speaker.
Do you know what? The wingman, I think, is such a cool product. And, I come at it from a different perspective, maybe, or, I know that in the US, in the Middle East, and it's starting to kick through now into some parts of the UK and Europe, an acceptance that golf it's an experience, and we need experiential items that sit within that. And the idea or the concept of playing golf with some music, it's something that's becoming more acceptable. Don't shoot me down, listeners, if you don't agree with that, but I think there is more and more a time and a place for us using golf in a different way. And the wingman just provides you the ability to use the speaker functions, but bear in mind that what's sat within that, it's not just a speaker, it is also a GPS device. So, and it's an audible GPS device. So you have a small remote, which is about the size of a poker chip, in your pocket, single press of that button, and you can get the audible front, center, and back yardages. And you can do some pretty cool things. You can personalize first tee announcements and various sound effects again. So it's not going to be for everybody, and I totally accept that. But I do think that we're going to see more and more golfers choosing a slightly different experiential route, and particularly within corporate and social golf.
But once again, talking about the watch, how you can use the watch as your personal watch. The speaker, everyone has a speaker and travels with the speaker. It's pretty much basic standard fare in a picnic kit these days. How useful is it as a personal speaker device? Whether it's in a room where you don't have access to the Bluetooth for your other speakers or whatever, but you can just pack it in the picnic set in the car, take it with you, and burn some tunes out there in the wild. It's great.
Absolutely, it's crossover technology. We can use it as a speaker, so as a standalone speaker, it's wonderful. If we put golf into that, it's a speaker that can provide you entertainment on a golf course. But it also has, for us, looking at our technology, our distance measuring devices, you've got the audible GPS element that sits in there, which is on top of, and it's a crossover piece. I love it. I have to say, I enjoy socially playing golf with it, and it's quite interesting when you see guys fighting over whose phone we're going to connect and whose playlist we're going to play at certain times. So why not? It's a bit of fun.
So that's a great wrap up of the new technology, the new products that are coming out soon, any day in Australia here, from Bushnell. Bushnell is a massive company in the States, and its web of influence in the golf industry extends even further past the products that we're talking about now. Those stories are for another time, but it's a massive company. You're a great part of it and a great asset to it over there. There's a reason why you have ended up being the commercial manager of EMEA. Part of that is your background in golf and your long-held background and the connections that you have in the industry. And I saw first-hand example of that, at St Andrews, when you had a crowd of people with you there, as I was probably late back to the rendezvous point to take us back to where we were going. And there was a heap of people there that you knew, and they were all from different spheres of the golf industry over there. And so, how did you get into where you are now? What was the journey like?
Good question. I've always taken the view that the golf industry is a very small world, and it's a very small world in the sense that you saw at the Open, Paul as well, and every 100 steps you probably bump into someone that or someone that you've connected with somewhere somehow, and that is of course over a span of time. But for me, golf was something that I started as a very young child. My father wasn't a golfer; he was a cricket and rugby man, but his father was involved in golf. He was an architect and was involved in designing some of the first buildings around Valdelobo down in the Algarve in Portugal. And it was very clear to me from a young age that golf was something at least I was going to have an opportunity to try. And I'm very, very grateful and thankful that that opportunity was there, because it's kind of got me on this journey. But, 6 years old, I'd have a putter, or it would be a putter and a wedge and chipping around the back garden, and just, an exposure to the game. And over time, golf became the sport of choice for me. I was very, very lucky, very fortunate growing up that, I had a number of sports that I enjoyed playing, and to a reasonable success. But golf became the bit of the shining light that probably worked for me. The mental challenge of that, the physical challenge of that, and that's the thing that kind of, got me going, if you like, floated my boat per se. And played to a good level as an amateur, got down to scratch. Toyed with the idea of going over to America. I had a scholarship at a university there, all set out, and at the same time had an opportunity to start my PGA qualification. So sort of 4-year course over here with the Professional Golfers Association, and the head pro at the club where I had played for a long time was a very renowned coach within the industry, taught a lot of tour players, Wayne Riley being one, putting the kind of Aussie flavor on that. So as a youngster, caddied for him. Gary taught me. He was the head pro, and I had the ability to then work at Camberley Heath. So Camberley Heath is, for those that don't know, sat in Surrey, very close to Sunningdale, Wentworth, West Hill, Woking. So a beautiful strip of, heathland, parkland, Harry Colt designed golf courses. So I had a really good setup, a really good pro, and access to some of the best golfers that were playing at that time. So for me, the opportunity to then do my PGA qualification seemed the obvious choice. And so that was a sort of 4-year process. You work on various aspects within retail, business, repairs, playing, rules, sports science, and everything else. And the guys do it now. Wow, it's it's unbelievably challenging and thorough now, the courses, compared to back in the early 90s when I did it. It was a very more straightforward version, but nevertheless you learn on the job, and that's the point. I then had, when Gary moved on to a different job, I had a guy that came in called Glenn Ralph. Now Glenn had played 24 straight years on what was the European Tour, now the DP World Tour, and then had a year managing the Seniors Tour. So again, from an experience perspective and as a mentor, I had Gary Smith, who'd worked with tour players and England golf and the best amateurs in the country, followed by a guy who'd spent 24 years on tour. I probably had the best people around me at that time as an influence to sort of guide my career. Within about a year of Glenn coming in, there was very much the kind of, I think you need to go play, you need to go and kind of sharpen your tools elsewhere. And that followed 8 years of playing around UK, Europe, and culminated in having my card on the Asian Tour, which was amazing. And very thankful to those experiences, those that helped me on that journey. And some of my deepest friends now are guys that I met on that pathway many years ago. And again, coming back to the golf being a small world. But I'm going to say, sadly, I picked up a middle ear issue while I was out in Asia, which stopped me playing tournament golf. So that kind of retired me, if you like, from playing at a good level. And side effects of nausea and vertigo for pretty much 10 months straight, kind of knocked the wind out of my sails from that perspective. And at the time I met Nikki, now my wife, and needed to go and do something to earn some money, and ended up having 3 years in a telecoms firm, completely out of golf, which from a business perspective, business acumen, business experience, managing people, understanding processes, was unbelievably good. But I wasn't in golf. And I'm golf's me. And I kind of knew that, I probably wasn't very happy within myself. And I needed to do something different. So long story cut short, an opportunity to come back in and do some coaching in London came around, and that transpired into a 10-year period of my life in London, a couple of years working at a really cool facility, And then 8 years setting up an indoor academy. So getting access to the first simulators, the first sort of putting technology, Tomy softwares, getting into club fitting, club building, retailing, junior development. And again, loving coaching and coaching with technology. And through that time, for me, and I guess probably from my father's influence, travel has also been a bit of a passion. And what I loved when I was playing tournament golf was the ability to jump on a plane, jump in a car, train, boat, just go somewhere different, experience that, play golf with different cultures, different grasses, different people, etc. So during my time when I was coaching, I used to run somewhere between kind of 6 and 10 trips a year where I would take my clients away. So I'd try and give them a flavor of those experiences, whether that was a coaching trip, whether that was a more kind of tournament experience, going to the Masters, going to tour events, going to the Open, whatever it was, and occasionally going out to play some pro-ams as well. So travel became very much incorporated into what I was doing from a day-to-day, and managing a technology focused indoor business was great fun. But travel then took over. An opportunity came to work in golf specific travel with, very fortunate to work for Golf Breaks. So Golf Breaks are one of the two big players, if you like, in the kind of golf tour operator space, and spent 4 years working with them specifically in a part of their business that was focused on golf pros and golf pro travel and events and pro-ams. And then spent a couple of years following that working for Your Golf Travel, which was, it was a great move for me in the sense of I got to work in a different space. So setting up a new team, looking at corporate partnerships, events, and building a pro part of their business was something for me that I was able to expand what I was doing in the previous role. Working, and moving from one competitor to the other has its challenges, let's say, Ross. And I know you kind of, you can relate to that. So, that was an interesting time, but it was a good move for me. And then as sort of, the global pandemic kicked in, unfortunately, we were all affected in different ways. And for me at that time, it probably gave me a period of reflection, maybe. Where am I? What do I want to do? What does the future look like? Where are the areas within golf that, I see there are opportunities for me? And, very fortunate to work as a consultant for a period of time with a golf app, golf technology business, into a corporate golf and events business, amongst some other bits and pieces. And then the Bushnell opportunity presented itself. And, in its simplest form, if one of the top 5 golf businesses in the world has an opportunity and they want to speak to you about it, you're not going to say no. You're not going to sit there and think too long and hard. And thankfully, the process was great. The role sort of fits me. I work with some amazing people, and very fortunate to still sit in an industry that I love and a sport that I'm passionate about. So when you kind of take that journey, I've had lots of different experiences with lots of different people, and I'll always try and, keep the doors open, never burn bridges. And that now from a networking perspective is, it's priceless, and every day is a new day. It's a new challenge, but I love reconnecting and connecting with new people. And I'm fortunate to be able to do that within the role I'm in now.
It's a good story, especially for some of the listeners that are the younger listeners. And I know we've got some more mature listeners like my age, and some people that I know, but I know that there's some younger golfers that listen. And I know from my own son's journey, how he tries to think about the journey too far ahead, and what he's not doing today means it's going to hold him back from the future. And I very much try and be a dad around, just keep being nice to people, keep your network opportunities going, always return phone calls, be proactive, not reactive, and everything will fall into place. If you love what you're doing and you see a future in it, it will work out. And, it's not the same story, but it's a great reflection on, keep your contacts, be nice to people, be professional, keep going, and just you'll end up getting to where you want to be and doing great things. And, you know, I can see from where you're sitting, we're surrounded by all those great Bushnell products, that you're in a pretty happy space. And, you know, obviously I get to see you out there with Mike Brown on the golf course, and, you know, what a legend and a great ambassador for Bushnell Mike is. You know, you're out there in some of the great golf courses in and around the area, working with some great distributors around Europe, selling your products. And you know, for me, that's, you know, if I put my commercial, you know, hat on from when I used to work in big businesses like that, it sounds perfect, mate. It sounds perfect. So it's great. Congratulations. And I know that you're doing a great job. So well done. Yeah.
Thank you, Ross. And I think the key piece there is, you know, you never know what's going to happen tomorrow. You never know what's happening around the corner. And, you know, if you're focusing on today and you're planning for tomorrow, great, but be open-minded to, you know, what might be there, what might happen. And I think that's certainly from my personal journey. I've never really had a defined plan for what I wanted to do, but I've always been open to exploring new opportunities and experiences when they came around, and that's held me in good stead. And you know, I'm looking forward to the next years with Bushnell and continuing to do what we do, and excited about, you know, the things that might be coming down the road.
Oh, well, we've got one exclusive, well, undisclosed, but almost you can read between the lines, an exclusive in the early part of this podcast. I'm sure we're not going to get an exclusive on what's coming in terms of Bushnell, but it sounds like there's plenty of product development away ahead, as you'd expect. I've got a couple of questions for you before I let you go. In terms of your golf, favorite golf course in UK GB&I, or GB&I, sorry. You know, UK GB&I is the, yeah, that's what, yeah, you know what I mean.
I think I'd have to say Royal Dornoch. You know, Royal Dornoch, I was fortunate enough to play a few years ago, and it's on the short-term horizon to go and play it again. And it's just, it's magnificent. It's an old, traditional links golf course where all of the holes, the topography, the landscape, the rolling elevation changes that sit there. It's just a cool, hard golf course, but one that you kind of leave and you just want to go and play again. You know, if I think about golf courses that have that wow factor, Turnberry is probably one of the most impressive links courses that I've played, if you piece together the whole experience. And listen, I think we'd go a long way if we didn't manage to discuss where we play golf for the first time, where we met. And, you know, there is a place in Loch Lomond in Scotland that is, it's sublime. I mean, from the minute you arrive, the guest experience, the golf experience, the F&B, you know, I have to say, if I'm talking about a favorite experience within the UK, that has to be number one. Golf course, Royal Dornoch. I loved Dornoch, but Loch Lomond would be my number one golf experience, sure.
Yeah, some people ask me about Loch Lomond, you know, the golf course. You know, aficionados that I talk to sometimes, and they asked how it was, and I said it was fabulous. And you know, I just reflected how 3 years before, obviously that was the last time we were in Scotland due to the pandemic, I was sitting on a boat out there in Loch Lomond, you know, a tourist boat, and the guide was giving a description of what was happening and the significance of the whole area and the Scottish history. And then he points across to where Loch Lomond, the golf course, is, and he says that's one of, you know, Scotland's most exclusive golf courses, Loch Lomond. They've played the Scottish Open there numerous times, and blah blah blah. And my wife turns to me and she says, "Oh, have you played that one?" Because you expect that you can just walk onto a golf course and play. I said, "No, darling, I've not played that one, and you know, I'm not sure that I ever will, but it's pretty special." Lo and behold, day one of the next trip to Scotland, here we are meeting you for the first time on the, well, not the first tee, but in Edinburgh, and when we drove up there, and it was just, yeah, you're right, it was mind blowing to walk those fairways that, you know, very lucky if you get to do, the members, and we're very thankful for Michael that, you know, allowed us to do that, and, you know, to walk those fairways that, you know, champions of golf have applied their trade on. It was awesome. And you're right, you know, I think there's a thing about the reason that I am so passionate about talking about Scotland so much is because the people make those experiences just seamless, easy, friendly, welcoming, warm, not over the top. You know, that's not the Scottish way. It's just like they're welcoming you into their home. And that's the really nice part about it there. Everyone was great. Golf course is fantastic. The setting and scenery was mind blowing. There you go. I loved it.
And listen, you know, I think golf offers us lots. We both sit within the industry in various guises and with backgrounds, but I think something that's really important, and I think you experienced that maybe at St Andrews and at the Loch, is being able to take stock. And I know, you know, things we've mentioned before around, you know, the pandemic was, you know, such a global impact. And I think it got us all reflecting upon where we are and what we're doing and maybe priorities. And I think part of, you know, my side to that was realizing how fortunate I am to sit in an industry that offers lots of these amazing experiences and things to do. And going up to the Open this year, the 150th at St Andrews, meeting you and the guys, and some of the things that we did while we were up there. You know, you mentioned, you know, dinner at the Russacks, in the bay window, overlooking the 18th hole, having then drinks up in bar 19, a putt on the balcony. I mean, those are things that you kind of have to take stock, right? When we were there, it was like, look where we are, look what we're doing, look how amazing this is, and how fortunate we are. And I think more than anything else, the pandemic has got me recognizing much more just how fortunate we are in what we do, and appreciating, you know, the wonderful places we go and the things that we get to do. And, you know, listen, I'm going to fire a question back to you now, knowing that you were on a month-long pilgrimage post St Andrews. What was your favorite golf course or favorite couple of courses in your kind of month-long journey?
Yes, I can answer that very easily, and I've sort of discussed it previously, but for the benefit of this podcast and yourself, and it sort of leans into that whole reflection post-pandemic. You know, I had a couple of moments there, and I was lucky enough in the holiday. I spent plenty of time with my wife, and that was great. But we were there staying with family, and we've both got family there, obviously all her family and some of my family. So, you know, it's a fairly important place to us, Scotland. But my wife went to London with her mother to stay with her sister for 5 days. So it left me with a rental car and 5 days of deciding what to do for myself. I'm not a very good cook. So that meant I had to get out of the house and fend for myself, truly. So that was obviously cue for a golf trip. Day one of the golf trip was Dundonald Links, played there before. It was great. That afternoon, Western Gales, it was always one that was on my radar. Fantastic, really good. The greens were running at about 15. The fairways were running at about 15. The greens at 9. It was burnt out, and it was that true Scottish summer links, which I hadn't really seen or played on before. So that was cool. The next day, jump on a ferry across to Arran, straight to Shiskin Golf and Tennis Club. Now, that's a quirky 12-hole, a very ancient course in a special part of the land. That afternoon, jump on the ferry across, ended up at Machrihanish, 6 p.m. with Robbie Wilson, who is a legend over in the Kintyre area of Scotland. You know, he hosts many people, shows many people. He works for Historic Scotland. He looks after all of the relics and the monuments, you know, the castles and the ruins and all of that. He makes sure that the signs are painted, they're fixed and proper, and he does a great job. He also does a great job for golf and takes a lot of people to Machrihanish and Dunaverty. He was smart enough to say the weather's going to be rubbish tomorrow. It's 6 o'clock. We can get 18 holes in between now and dark. Obviously, you can in Scotland. You can do that wonderful thing. And we went and played Machrihanish without a breath of wind as the sun was setting. And it was magnificent. You know, obviously that first hole at Machrihanish across the beach is a very, very famous, you know, one of the best opening tee shots in golf, I would say. But it wasn't until I got out into like the second and the third, when you get into that true rolling sort of dunescape of the links land out there. And I started to realize what was happening. You know, not only had I got this time to myself to just take it all in without having to worry about getting home for tea and all that. Not that it's a worry, but you know what I mean. And I got out there into that third and fourth hole and just see the beautiful rolling hills and thought this place is pretty special. You know, if this was the last golf course I ever played, I'd be pretty happy. And, you know, 12 miles to the southwest is Ireland, Northern Ireland there. Obviously another great part of the world, which I'm very familiar with and been to and love. And just to be in that sort of area where everything seems to be in hand's reach, it was great. And then I realized that the significance of the golf course, Old Tom Morris. Now, obviously, there's an Old Tom Morris trail. It starts at St Andrews and heads around the country, and there's some very significant golf properties that are part of the Old Tom Morris trail. But just to be there on a course at Old Tom Morris first, shaped in and out through the dunescape. And then it made me reflect on another great experience, which isn't Scotland, it was Ireland. And I used to tell people, and I would tell people, not used to, but I would tell people that I loved Lahinch. And obviously it was an Old Tom Morris experience as well. And I just felt this familiarity in the land and the golf experience. And it just made me feel a bit sort of jittery and goosebumpy when I sort of realized that. And I was very happy to be there at that time. Yeah.
Amazing. And I know you have in previous podcasts, and you could do now talk about all of those golf courses, but I love that. I was trying to picture as you were describing, getting out third or fourth hole into the dunes. It's that realization of the history and the importance and where you are. And I know from a couple of the pictures that you kindly sent me at that point, and I was very jealous at that moment, but the framed scenario of where you were and that golfing landscape and the history, and these are the things that make us tick. And I'm sure that for any of your listeners there that have a chance to go over, please do make a point to backtrack on some of these episodes, because Ross certainly knows what he's talking about in the UK as well as in your homeland.
Well, I need to get down and do a bit more golf in the UK, and I'm hoping that in the further trips that we'll be able to do some of that together. But I'm looking forward to, it was an idea that I had post the trip when I came across so many people that were in and around Scotland at that time. And so the concept of me doing some podcasts where I talk to people that, I knew or have met or come across that were party to those experiences I had. And I think their stories are very, very powerful in what Scotland means to them, but more so their love of golf. That's what this is all about, love of golf. So I'm looking forward to doing that. I have a friend from Queensland who was basically away for about 2 months, and the courses that he went to, unbelievable. For me, the sad thing but great thing is that I've still left so many courses on the table that are still yet to be discovered. So that just gives me the motivation to go back. When I think about Cruden Bay, I could have, if I had planned the trip a little bit differently, I could have got to Cruden Bay. Can't wait to get up there. Never been to Royal Dornoch and Brora. Obviously, Fortrose and Rosemarkie, which is up that way, another great links, and so on and so on and so forth. Anyway.
But don't you think that the amazing thing with and maybe your trip is a really good reference this year, that as much as there were some courses there you definitively needed to and wanted to go and play, you wanted to tick off certain elements. I know there was a couple that you kind of found along the way, those little hidden gems that, you talked about Dornoch and Brora, and you've got Skibo Castle and Castle Stewart and Nairn in that little pocket. But you've also got Tain. Tain Golf Club is wonderful.
Yeah.
And, as an experience, and the guys that work there, it is tremendous. But maybe it isn't the obvious choice when you go there. And sometimes it's those little courses that you find, the unexpected little hidden gems that are just as enjoyable. And that is part of the adventure.
Well, I'm able to share with you, and because he's confirmed that he's happy to join us on the podcast at some stage, but Jim Hartzell is, a world-renowned golf author. You can listen to Jim on some of the No Laying Up podcasts that they do, Trapdoor podcasts. He writes for No Laying Up. He's a published author and has a great story about his connection to Scotland, and in particular that Machrihanish part of Campbelltown part of the world. He's a member at Dunaverty, and I went to Dunaverty and we're supposed to play, but it was horrendous weather. And you walk into Dunaverty Clubhouse and it's literally a bar, not much bigger than these two wardrobes put together, a small shop, and 3 or 4 round tables looking out over the golf course, which has got some farmland either side, out to the most southern part of the Kintyre Peninsula. And it's not a championship course, but it's in a championship location. And, I walked the course and went out to Dunaverty Point, and it was just unbelievable. I didn't play it because, anyway, I didn't brave the elements, put it that way. I didn't live true to my Scottish heritage and brave the elements and just get out there and do it. But the beauty is it's given me a reason to go back. I did go and take some photos, but to your point, I played with my uncle's and my uncle's brother-in-law, who I'd never met. And we met and we went out and played golf at Winterfield. Now, Winterfield's in Dunbar. Dunbar is a great golfing town in Scotland. Dunbar Golf Course, people refer to as the Pebble Beach of Scotland, and rightly so. It's magnificent. Just around the corner is a little place called Winterfield. They're pretty basic and simple links course, pop bunkers everywhere. So it's got that authentic links feel. Obviously, when you get the weather coming right off the Bash Rock, you can see the Bash Rock from everywhere. Now, what's the most famous golf course up in that part of the world where you can also see the Bash Rock, which is just around the corner? What would it be if I put you on the spot?
Go on.
North Berwick. So it's just around the corner from North Berwick, and everyone knows North Berwick because the Bash Rock's out there. Or Winterfield, which costs you about worth 30 quid to play, not even that. It's got even closer view to Bass Rock, and it's just there on the cliffs. And you can check out my Instagram. There's a couple of little drone flyovers, and it's magnificent for 30 quid. And no one goes there. It's not on the tourist destination. It's in the middle of them all, but no one goes there. North Berwick has the Glen, same sort of thing. North Berwick, they're just around the other side of North Berwick. There's the Glen. Once again, haven't played it. Can't wait to go back. Anyway, all those things are just wonderful parts about being in that part of the land. And I'm sure people get fed up with me rabbiting on about it. So if you'd like to go over there and live there and do it all the time, then get out of here and free up the tea times for us, Ross. Maybe I won't do that. No, kidding.
But anyway. You know what, Ross? Sometimes it's sharing those experiences and those little bits of knowledge, and so for those that have an opportunity to go to those areas, go check out those courses. Go check out those little hidden gems. Go check out what's just around the corner from some of those headline places. Because if you're going for 2 or 3 days and you've got 2 main courses on your list, go find one you could do in the morning, in an afternoon, an unexpected, unplanned course, because you'll probably be surprised what you find.
I'll say this again. If you land in Edinburgh and you don't head out straight away and you have the first day in Edinburgh to, acclimatise, but you still want to get out there and stretch the legs on a golf course, head straight to the Braids. It's about 5 miles outside of Edinburgh City. It's not far in the taxi. It's on the Braid Hills, just overlooking the whole city of Edinburgh. Overlooking, you can basically see to the Fife, out to where St Andrews is, all of that coast, which is full of golf courses, Ely, Anstruther, St Monans, Crail, etc., etc. You look out across the water to that, and Braid Hills is just unbelievable. Once again, a council course in the middle of town. It's fantastic. So go and do that. Braids, you heard it here. There's also one of your fine retailers, American Golf, just at the driving range, just at the bottom of the hill at the Braids. Do a fantastic job. I'm sure, hopefully, they sell enough Bushnell product for you. Great part of the world. Darren, thank you very much for all of your time and sharing, very importantly and most rightly so, all of the technical advancements in the new Bushnell Pro X3, the Iron Elite watch, and just some of those crossover products like the Wingman. Look forward to being your wingman on some golfing experiences in the future. We could keep talking for hours, but we won't. Thank you very much, mate.
Awesome. Ross, thank you for your time, and look forward to catching up with you soon.
Excellent. Thank you, mate. We'll see you next time.